For most of my life, I believed that if you worked hard enough, people would eventually recognize it. I learned the hard way that recognition and credit are not always given to the same person. 5 years ago, I worked as a senior project coordinator in a mid-sized tech company. We weren't a startup anymore, but we weren't corporate giants either. It was the kind of place where visibility mattered. If leadership noticed you, your career could accelerate quickly. I wasn't flashy. I didn't dominate meetings. I didn't interrupt people. What I did was build systems. I fixed inefficiencies. I caught problems before they escalated. Quiet contributions. Then Daniel joined the company. He was charismatic in a way that filled rooms. Confident. Fast-talking. Always ready with a bold idea. Within weeks, people were using words like visionary to describe him. He joined my department. At first, I was relieved. I thought his energy could complement my structure. And in some ways, it did. We were assigned to lead a major internal transformation project, redesigning our client onboarding system. It was messy, outdated, and full of manual steps that caused delays. For 6 months, I worked on that system obsessively. I mapped every workflow. Interviewed every department. Built process charts. Created implementation timelines. Tested automation tools. I often stayed late refining documentation so that when we presented to executives, everything would be airtight. Daniel's role was to help present the strategy and align stakeholders. That was the plan. But slowly, something shifted. During meetings, he began presenting my frameworks as if they were collaborative brainstorms he had initiated. I was thinking we should centralize intake forms, he'd say, repeating almost word for word a proposal I had emailed weeks prior. At first, I assumed it was miscommunication. So I started CCing him explicitly. Sharing documents clearly labeled. Tracking contributions. Then came the executive preview meeting. This was the big one, the presentation that would determine promotions and budget approvals. The day before the meeting, Daniel asked to consolidate our slides. I agreed. The next morning, as the presentation began, I realized what had happened. My name was on slide 3. His name was on every strategy slide. He spoke confidently, walking leadership through the exact systems I had built, using phrases I recognized from my own documentation. When the COO said, "Daniel, this is impressive work," he didn't correct him. He smiled. And I sat there, silent, stunned. After the meeting, several executives congratulated him in the hallway. No one spoke to me. That was the moment I understood something critical. Daniel wasn't collaborating. He was positioning. Over the next few weeks, it became clearer. He was invited to strategy lunches I wasn't told about. He was included in high-level email threads I had initiated. Then came the announcement. Daniel was promoted to Director of Operations. The role I had been informally preparing for. I congratulated him professionally. Inside, I was furious. But anger without strategy is just noise. So I did something different. I documented everything. Not dramatically. Not obsessively. Just carefully. Every original file creation date. Every project plan draft. Every email chain. Every meeting recap I had sent. I wasn't building a revenge folder. I was building clarity. Because here's the truth, ideas can be claimed verbally, but systems leave trails. Months passed. Under Daniel's leadership, implementation began. And that's when the cracks showed. He had presented the vision beautifully. But he hadn't built the foundation. He didn't fully understand the dependencies between departments. He hadn't internalized the operational risks I had flagged in footnotes. Small issues started emerging. Deadlines slipped. Integration errors appeared. Customer onboarding times initially improved, then plateaued. In executive updates, Daniel began saying things like, "The team underestimated certain complexities." The team. Meaning me. That's when I requested a formal project review meeting. Not emotional. Not accusatory. Structured. I prepared a comprehensive timeline titled Onboarding Transformation, Development History and Risk Analysis. I included version histories showing original authorship. Risk memos I had written months prior. Mitigation strategies that had been removed from final slides. The meeting was scheduled with the COO, CFO, and department heads. Daniel walked in confident, as always. When I began presenting, the room felt different. Not hostile. Focused. I walked them through the chronology, calmly, precisely. I showed the initial proposals with timestamps. I showed the risk warnings that had been labeled non-essential. I showed the budget requests I had recommended that were declined during the final consolidation. No accusations. Just evidence. At one point, the COO interrupted and asked, why weren't these risk controls implemented? I responded, they were included in the original draft. They were removed during final executive consolidation. Silence. Daniel shifted in his chair. For the first time, he didn't have a quick response. The review extended for 2 hours. By the end, leadership had a very different understanding of the project's origins and its current problems. A week later, an internal audit was launched. Not because I demanded it. Because discrepancies were now visible. The audit wasn't dramatic. There were no public confrontations. But findings emerged. Key documentation had been reattributed. Critical risk assessments had been omitted from executive summaries. Communication transparency had been inconsistent. Daniel wasn't fired. But he was restructured. His authority over operational implementation was reduced. A cross-functional oversight committee was created, and I was appointed to lead it. The official reasoning cited organizational alignment. Unofficially, it was clear leadership no longer fully trusted his narrative. The final moment of resolution came 3 months later. The COO called me into his office. He said, we reviewed the project's development history in detail. Your contribution was significantly larger than we realized. He paused. We'd like you to step into the director role. I didn't celebrate immediately. I asked one question. Will project documentation protocols be updated to reflect clear authorship moving forward? He smiled. Yes. That mattered more than the title. When the promotion was announced, the company email highlighted strategic leadership during system redesign. This time, my name was on every relevant line. Daniel eventually transferred to another division. We never had a dramatic confrontation. We didn't need one. Because here's what I learned. Some people rely on performance. Others rely on preparation. Performance can win rooms temporarily. Preparation wins long games. I didn't destroy his career. I revealed the foundation beneath it. And when that foundation proved unstable, leadership adjusted accordingly. The real revenge wasn't public humiliation. It was structural correction. Now, whenever someone on my team presents a project, I insist on clear contribution mapping. Not because I'm paranoid. Because I understand how easily silence can erase effort. If I had reacted emotionally after that first executive meeting, I might have been labeled difficult. Instead, I waited. I organized. I presented facts. And I let the system respond to documentation. It's less cinematic. But it's far more effective. In the end, I didn't just gain a promotion. I changed how credit was tracked in the company. And that change will likely outlast both of us. That's not loud revenge. That's legacy.